Welcome back to the Voices of Women Summit, where in honor of International Women's Day 2022, we are raising the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. We've got another amazing guest coming right up. Take it away.
Well, welcome and thank you for joining us. Today, our guest speaker is Jill McCarthy, and her topic is Reclaiming My Voice, the Mind-Body Way. So welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
So let's get, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
It's okay.
Welcome. So let's talk a little bit about your journey into this topic, and how did this all start? What's your why, and why are you an expert in this particular area?
Okay, my talk today is actually my why kind of stretched out, but the short version is it's taken an awful lot for me to get my voice going, and I've spent an awful lot of work getting my own voice going. And if I can do something to help somebody else get through that same path a little easier, a little quicker, then that's what I want to do.
Oh, that's awesome. And definitely feel your passion about this. So let's talk about, I should say, let's take us through maybe some of your 3 key steps on how you help others to reclaim their voices.
Okay, well, I'm going to start my story out when I was in kindergarten. And the last day of kindergarten, I came home from school with my report card. I ran into my bedroom. I can't read, but I can sound out letters. And I sounded out the word shy. Well, is there anybody in the audience that can relate to that? Would you put a 1 in the chat if you were ever labeled shy or felt shy along the way? Well, I've been that way for a long time, but you know what I want to tell you is some of us were mislabeled. Some of us really weren't what shy means. Shy means that you're afraid. And it makes sense that a little kid might be afraid of grown-ups coming in or new events. Even grown-ups get scared of new events. But some of us are just the quiet, introverted person that takes in tons and tons of detail. It isn't that we don't have anything to say or can't say it. We just want to look over the situation clearly before we start talking. And that gives us a lot of our information that we have to share with others. And I started out with that being labeled as shy in kindergarten. Now I spent 4 years of elementary school in a shell. That's not a very happy place, or it isn't great for making friends if you're kind of in your own little world. And eventually I got enough gumption to come out of my shell. That took a huge amount of effort. And once I got out of it, then you got to reconnect for the rest of the people in the world, because they've gone on, and that makes you feel like more of a loner and more of an outcast. And are there any of you in the audience that were labeled shy, that you really were just that observant kid that wanted to take the whole scene in? Well, I get you. I really do.
Yes.
And
yes.
then I went off to college. I went to a small college, and we had a suite situation. And I can remember one night all of the girls in the suite were in a circle, and they were having some sort of a deep discussion. And I was listening to this one, and I listened to that one, and I listened to the other one. And we were kind of getting tired of sitting still, and the conversation was slowing down. And then I said one sentence that tied up what everyone in the group said. and I put it all together, gave it as a conclusion, and even said it in a little bit of humor. And it was a sentence that lasted. It was, if you ever heard the old commercial, when E.F. Hutton talks, everybody listens. So some of us that have been labeled shy really weren't. We have really good things to say, and we probably have gained some wisdom in our quiet time, just observing things. Well, life went on, and I got a job as a teacher. And as life gets on, and your trials and tribulations, let's say, become more adult like, what I found that the first Friday of school, I had laryngitis just from talking. And our school week started Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. By Friday night, I couldn't talk. And what I found out is that teaching is a job that you use your voice a lot in. And what I found, in my quiet way, not wanting to ruffle any feathers, I was starting to put that emotion and that tension into my body, especially into my nervous system and into my muscles. And I would go on throughout the year, and I got so I would stick a red Hall's cough drop right up in the back cheek of my mouth, because my mouth just got dry. I'm sure some of the people in the audience today, if you were on stage, you've needed a lot of water, because your mouth gets dry when you get a little bit nervous. I had to do that so much through my career that I literally lost my back top teeth, where I used to put that cough drop to help keep my throat moisturized. As I kept on going through life, I would, not only with the nerves, but also when I got angry and I didn't share it, I'd stuff that in another body part. I stuffed so much into my body that it came up with a huge list of things that seemed like they were wrong. And my husband says, I think it's time you go to a doctor and find out, and make sure you write it all down. So good doctors, as they always are, they make up they check to make sure there's nothing physiologically wrong with you. And then when they run out of all of those, it's time to go see the therapist. And I went through a slew of them, and eventually I ended up with one therapist who was an EMDR trauma specialist. And one of the first things she told me is that I was dissociating, that I had stuffed so much trauma, so much pain, so much into my body, that it was getting numb. It wasn't responding the way that it needed to. And sometimes when we hear that word trauma, we think about it as a huge car accident, or being abused, or being this, or being that. Well, guess what? There can be something called developmental trauma. And that emotional part of me just didn't grow at the same speed as most people's do. And I kind of added some of my teacher training into that later on. And I found out that in teaching, we talk about different learning styles, and mine is kinesthetic, which means touch. And I ended up using that in this process of what I did to help me get through this. And my therapist sent me to somebody that was called a network chiropractor. And what he did is he specializes in the nervous system and neurology, and along with his chiropractic training. And he would like reconnect the nerves so that they would talk to the right places again. Now,
Wow.
I am talking mega body was out of whack. And one of the places that it happened most was in my throat. It also did in my arm, but I kept putting so much inside of me instead of getting it out. I literally ate a hole in my chest and ended up with something called a desmoid tumor there, which it ate through my sternum, 3 muscles, and 2, and 2 ribs. So you can see that the surgery from that was massive to correct what you wouldn't think about your, how could you eat a hole in your chest? But you're so intense and you're holding so much in for so long, ruminate on it, so it happens even greater. It makes it puts your body out of commission. So I worked as a pair with the chiropractor and the therapist for a long time. And what I found is I put the appointments back to back. I put the therapist first. We'd go talk about something and locate where I stuffed that pain in my body. That's what EMDR does. And then I'd go to the chiropractor and I said, this is where it's hurting now. So let's loosen that pain. So I never even heard of the question.
Oh.
And so what happened is they helped me. I was so dissociated. I didn't know. I couldn't, it took time and practice to find where I was putting the pain. And I'd never heard of mindfulness. And my therapist kind of gave me some clues on that. And what happened is between the two of them, they helped me to, instead of looking at everything out in the world and getting overwhelmed by it, they taught me how to look inside of me and find where a pain was, where a feeling was. And I started out with my therapist working, we started down in the solar plex, and then we worked up to the heart space, and then slowly we worked on the throat area. And it was a long process. But I'm going to speed up here a little bit more. Here I had this teacher throat. It makes sense you had it all during your career, but then I retired and I still had it 5 years after I retired. So I said, something's going on. You'd think it would have rested a little in at least 5 years. So one day I saw this ad scrolling along Facebook, and there was a vocal coach there, and she was giving a free evaluation. So I contacted her and she set it up, and she gave me an exercise with your tongue and your teeth and your vocal cords. Mine were not working in the right order. And she had a little exercise that would help them get back in the right order again. So you've got all these things kind of working against you, and all you wanted to do was just be able to talk and to share what you had to share. And I worked with her for 2 years. And not only did we do the mind body, yes, we had to go into the deeper reasons why. And, I did my due diligence in therapy. And I'm a person who loves personal growth, loves to learn, loves to read and listen to all these webinars. And I just combined all the information I got from them. That's what I kind of call them my healing team. Early on, I used a pastor, I used a therapist, I used a chiropractor, I used a vocal coach. Now I'm adding a physical therapist to the mix. And through it all, my therapist said it the other day, is that I just kept pursuing on. When I was a little kid and didn't know what to do, I went in the shelf till like somebody could help me figure it out. And then I'd go a little further, and then I'd find this person along my way. And I'd keep reading and I'd keep learning. And sometimes when little kids figure things out, they kind of go about it the cockeyed way, and it isn't always the right way, but you keep trying. And that's what my therapist says is, I just keep trying and I keep trying. I don't give up. And it isn't easy. It isn't quick. Uh, but I just keep going. But I guess what I want to say in this story is not only did I keep going, but I started by doing a piano solo at church, and I had to take the chance of getting my wings and stepping out there. And then I had to take a chance of getting in front of a small group of women. And then I started doing women's retreats. I remember one time when I did my first retreat, I went to the pastor to pitch it, and along with a friend, and they said, they heard all about what I wanted to do in the retreat, and they said, just one thing, who's the speaker going to be? And I says, it's going to be me. And they said, okay. And then later on, I had flyers, and I was passing them out to a colleague, and I says, here's a retreat going on. She says, that looks interesting. But she just scratched her head. You're going to be the speaker? But once she got there, not only was she convinced, she ended up coming to a couple of my retreats. She started doing the retreats herself. And, the ball kept rolling, because you just took that chance and you went out there, and whether anybody else believed in you or not, you kept doing it. Now I've done 12 retreats, and that Facebook, the local coach, she convinced me to get a Facebook group going. She helped convince me to take that first chance to do a Facebook Live. Then I've done 88 of those. And then from there, I've gone on to started a podcast. I've been doing that for a year and a half. In the last 6 months, I've been spending time here on summits. Look at this. This shy little kindergarten girl is on the International Women's Day with 200 other wonderful women. And I just want to take what I've learned, and I want to help them. And my first therapist had this picture on their wall of the herring and the frog, and the herring is trying to swallow the frog, and the frog is grabbing around the herring's neck so it can't get down. And that's what I want to leave this story is. I want you to just never give up, keep on keeping on. And my 2 words are persistence and perseverance.
Wow, those are powerful insights and an amazing transformation story on top of all that. Well, let's go ahead and see. We have some questions for you, Miss Jill. So let's take a look here and take a pause and see if we can go over some of these questions. So give me one moment as I'm bringing them up. Somebody's asking, what did you do to clear out old energy? Or, yeah.
That's a very good question. I had a point in time in my career that I was really having a difficult time with the students in school. And it was getting to me, and the nerves were getting more and more. And what I did is my co-principal came in to talk to me. They were actually one of my former students, and they had been going to a massage therapist, and the massage therapist also happened to be an energy practitioner. Now, one thing in my case, I really needed touch. So I took the chance and went to that person. I had my first energy treatment. My husband knew I went for a massage, but I never mentioned the energy treatment. But that night I sat next to him on the couch, and he could just feel the difference in the energy radiating off of me. So what I did my last year of teaching, that was near the end of my career when that happened. My last year of teaching, I got paid every 2 weeks, and I took from each paycheck every 2 weeks, the rest of the year, I went and got a massage. And I really, you hear about people saying we're not in our bodies. Well, I really had to work to get back into my body and to wake it up. And I learned a lot. So you could say that person was also part of my healer team. So.
Wow. Yeah, that's neat. So that's another recommendation. Get a massage.
Very definitely. And the thing is if something is missing from your youth, the most likely thing is you didn't get enough touch when you were real little. And that's not to beat up any old parents or anything. Just you think about it. My parents were from the World War II, the greatest generation, and they were so much about practicality that to take the extra time for touch, they just didn't have it. The families were bigger. There's only so much to go around. And so if you're missing something, that is one of the first places I, as a teacher, would recommend checking.
That's some great advice. Great advice. And speaking of a little TLC, let's talk about your free gift. Tell us about your free gift, Miss Jill.
Sure. Along with that journey and getting my voice back, I had if anybody has TMJ, temporal mandibular joint issues, the pressure is so huge in there, and it can bring you to tears sometimes. And I learned by learning to focus in on my body and where the pain was and how to release it. I did a video of an isometric I taught myself, and it's helped me to release the pain here, up the temple, down here, all across my face. And this is a live example of me teaching you how to do that exercise.
Awesome. Well, that's some great insights. We thank you for sharing your story of transformation. And the final touches are, what were the 2 P's? The
persistence and perseverance.
There you go. As your final 2 words to carry us off as we wind down this session with you. It's been a great pleasure interviewing you, Miss Jill. Again, thank you for your wisdom, insights, and sharing your story with us. So check out the free gift, and you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing session of the Voices of Women Summit, where our mission is to raise the voices of hundreds of women so their messages can be heard. For recordings of all sessions, plus an amazing VIP gift bundle, upgrade to VIP now. If you have any questions or problems during the summit, email our support team at support@voicesofwomensummit.com. Stay tuned. We have another fantastic speaker coming right up.